nudged up only 0.2% in July, which could mean that inflation is moderating. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Seen a vehicle fire catching your attention through Cerritos, taking that 605 north just as you get up towards that 91. It's a pickup truck on fire. It's going to be onto the right shoulder. Industry, that 60 west at Crossroads Parkway. Earlier wreck is now cleared, but we're very busy from Hacienda Boulevard. Sunland, a bit of a scorcher on the 210 east at Sunland Boulevard. Stalled vehicle stuck in the Center Divider area. Stay over to the right. And 70 broken down in downtown on the 110 south approaching the 10. Looks like they're onto the right shoulder through this area.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers get a shutout at Arizona last night to win their fifth straight. Right-hander Bobby Miller kept Arizona off the scoreboard for 6 innings before the bullpen took over in the seventh. The Dodgers are back home tonight against Colorado. The Rams rank third among NFL franchises in net value. If you want to buy the Rams from owner Stan Kroenke, it will cost you $6.94 billion. Rounding out the top five, the New York Giants at $7.04 billion, New England at $6.7 billion, and the 49ers at $6.15 billion. The Chargers are at number 18 at $4.63 billion. LeBron James' son Bryce has changed his mind about going to Campbell High School in Studio City. The 6'6" junior is planning to transfer to Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame. One of the guards at Sherman Oaks is a guy named Mercy Miller, son of rapper Master P. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Dieu, election time's coming. Who you gonna vote for? Dieu, if I was president, I'd get elected on Friday, assassinated on Saturday. They go back to work on Monday. If I was president, if I was president, if I was president, yeah. Instead of spending billions on the war, I can use that money so I can feed the poor. Cause I know some so poor. When it rains, that's when they shower, scream and fight the power. That's when the vulture devours. If I was president.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm glad to have you tuned in to our program today. That's the song stylings of Wyclef Jean. I ain't seen Clef in a minute. He's been kind of quiet. And I love this track from Wyclef. I have to check in on my friend and see where he is and what he's working on these days. Nonetheless, again, glad to have you tuned in to Tavis Smiley today. In this hour, in an interview earlier this week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis doubled down yet again on Florida's new Black History school curriculum, claiming it is not political at all. We've been involved in education, not indoctrination, close quote. That's his new argument, that what they're doing in Florida is education, not indoctrination. Vice President Kamala Harris rejected DeSantis' request to debate him on the state's new Black History curriculum, and derided the governor in a visit to Florida several days ago, saying, and I quote, "There is no roundtable, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact. There were no redeeming qualities of slavery. We will not stop calling out and fighting back against extremist so-called leaders who try to prevent our children from learning our true and full history," close quote. Those are the words of Vice President Kamala Harris. As news broke this week that some Florida schools are now even cutting Shakespeare. They're going after Shakespeare now to comply with DeSantis' legislation on teaching material. Some wonder aloud, as we will in this hour, if this attack on history is only the beginning in right-wing efforts to fully erase essential culture and literary components from the educational canon, from the educational experience. Into this conversation comes Ellis Cose, best-selling author, longtime columnist and contributing editor for Newsweek magazine, longtime chair of the editorial board of the New York Daily News, and founder of the organization Renewing American Democracy, to share his thoughts on the implications of these recent developments. Ellis Cose, welcome back to Tavis Smiley. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, and Tavis, it's great to be with you. And before we start the conversation, I just have to congratulate you on your expansion, your national syndication. You've obviously been toiling at this for a long time. You've been diligently going about the people's business for a long time. So congratulations, my brother.
You were kind. I appreciate you. Thank you for saying that, and just honored to have you as a friend all these years and as a source. I'm glad to have you back on our program today. This story is getting more and more troubling, and I was in a conversation with some friends at some event the other night. And I'm sensing that people are getting tired of hearing DeSantis, getting tired of hearing about DeSantis, and they're kind of shrugging this thing off. And I had to say to them, hey, we can't shrug this off, because if you know anything about history, this is how it begins. They come after reading material first. They come after the media next. It's all an effort to sort of push back against the truth or truth tellers in a particular society, in a particular democracy. And so this stuff is really concerning for me. It's one thing to go after black books and black authors, but now you have people who are afraid to teach Shakespeare. And I don't value Shakespeare any more than I value Toni Morrison. I don't value Shakespeare any more than I value, any number of other great black writers. The point is that if they go after Shakespeare, that sort of changes the game. So this stuff's getting scarier and scarier as I see it. But how do you read it, Ellis Cose?
I read it as something that's not new. And by that I mean, ever since the Civil War ended in 1865, there have been people trying to refight the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the latest articulation of that. It comes from this philosophy that, best as I can figure it, that you can prevent the future by rewriting and then trying to return to the past. Mm-hmm. And it ignores the whole idea that history only goes one way. And if you don't mind, let me just talk about history for just a brief second.
Sure.
Andrew Johnson, who obviously succeeded Lincoln, in 1866 vetoed the Civil Rights Act, the first Civil Rights Act after the Civil War. His argument was that this act is giving blacks more rights than whites have, and it's unfair to whites, so we can't have this damn thing. He also, the same year, reversed General William Sherman's Field Order Number 15, the one that gave blacks 40 acres. There was no mule included, but they gave blacks, the 40 acres, which was land, that had been won, during the Civil War. Part of some of it in Florida, actually. He reversed that after, basically a year, and said, "Forget it. We aren't going to do this." I think that it's important to understand DeSantis in light of that history, because he's making the same arguments. He is trying to rewrite history in order, one, to make whites feel more comfortable. He's explicitly said that we can't do things that are going to make whites feel. He didn't say whites, but he clearly meant whites. He'll feel guilty about the past. And it's reminiscent so much of in the early 1870s, Yeah, you used the word redeem or redemption a second or two ago. I mean, but there's a movement, the redemption movement in the South, which was all about the celebration of white supremacy and the removal of rights for blacks. That happened under Reconstruction, and they got their way. In 1877, after the presidential election, part of the deal that gave that election to Rutherford Hayes was that they end Reconstruction.
Let's hold that thought 1 second. I want to, when we come forward, I want to probe more, actually hear more about this redemption movement that you referenced. I want to come straight to that. I also want to talk more about this notion of education versus indoctrination. Just getting started with Ellis Cose on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
MC Light for AARP Hip Hop, the cultural phenomenon that took New York by storm in 1973, is celebrating 50 years of rocking mics and crowds. Whether you're a ride or die hip hop head or simply curious about its origins, check out the latest issue of AARP the magazine. It celebrates this incredible milestone with a featured story brimming with fun hip-hop facts and history. Head over to aarp.org/black community to learn more.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who go above and beyond to help it thrive. During the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and the 75th anniversary of black radio, AARP recognizes the members, volunteers, people, and partners giving back to our communities. We believe when our efforts drive change for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about how AARP supports efforts to keep our communities thriving, visit aarp.org/black community.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Our guest in this half hour is Ellis Cose. You listen to Tavis Smiley, and I'm glad about it. Ellis and I are talking about, in case you've just tuned in, these efforts. Doubling down is Ron DeSantis in Florida on suggesting that what they're doing there is education, not indoctrination, but there are now schools in Florida that are cutting Shakespeare out of their curriculum in an effort to adhere to his legislation on teaching material. So this stuff's getting uglier and scarier, as I said earlier to Ellis. It's one thing to do away with black books. I mean, we've always been easily dismissed as black folk in this country. But when you start, being scared to teach Shakespeare, that portends something different to my mind. Ellis, you were breaking down, though. I'm sorry I had to step aside for a second, but you were breaking down this notion of redemption back in the day. So finish that point because it was getting good to me.
Sure. I mean, going back all the way to the early 1870s, less than a decade after the end of the Civil War, white Southerners were trying to stage a comeback. And a huge part of this comeback was the redemption movement. And the redemption movement principally was a redefense of slavery. It was an argument that the South had always been a moral and decent place, that slavery was a positive good, that it was that it was a benevolent institution, a paternalistic institution that brought social and economic benefits to black people, that it was an important part of civilization. What's eerie about that is that you're hearing echoes of that in this new nonsense, that they're coming up with as they try to ban standard African American history, where they're arguing that there were certain benefits to slavery for African Americans, that the enslaved people learned skills that they could later use in their work in society. I mean, it's eerie how closely they track the movements that the white racists in the South, who were trying to reinstitute slavery under a different name, came up with. And I think you're absolutely right to be disturbed by what's happening in Florida, because it's not just on the issue of race, as you point out, that they are trying to rewrite history. It's across the curriculum. I mean, the African American history AP courses are basically banned there now, but they can't teach psychology either, because psychology gets into areas that have to do with gender and sex and stuff that they don't want. They are teaching Shakespeare, as you noted, just in excerpts where they can cut out the parts they don't like. This is not education. It is the very thing that they are projecting onto others. It's an indoctrination. It's trying to change reality, or at least the understanding of reality, and it's trying to indoctrinate this next generation with a set of ideas which will make them less challenging of institutions of repression.
Let me ask you a question I've never asked of you before, and I want to just get your take on this. Why do you think this particular issue, we're talking now about education, is so ripe for political bastardization, if I can put it that way? I mean, there's some issues. I mean, you've been covering this for years. There's some issues that you can advance that work politically. We call them trial balloons, right? You float something and you see whether it works, and if it works, then you run with it. They floated this some time ago, and apparently it worked well enough for them to continue, drilling down on it and doubling down on it and tripling down on it, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think this particular issue, and this broad issue of what's happening in education, is working so well for them, or at least appears to be something they're going to ride politically? Why? Why is it right for the picking?
Fear. Yeah. And let me expand on that.
Sure.
And the second word that I will use is demographics. What has boosted the whole rise of Trump and would-be Trumpettes, I guess, for lack of a better word, is this idea that whites are losing their country, that whites are losing control, and not just whites, but that along with whites losing control, the very ideas they hold dear are also losing their grip on people, and so you have this war against, because you have to remember, I mean, the position that DeSantis has taken and his platform is not just anti-black history; it's what he calls anti-woke. So anti-anything that challenges the establishment, anti-anything that moves you from the past into the future. But the big thing is that we've had projections for a while now about whites becoming a minority in this country sometime in 2040 or 2055, depending upon how you do the projections. I think we can get into that discussion, because I think a lot of that's nonsense, but it doesn't mean that whites aren't afraid of that. The election of Obama deepened that fear. And the arguments of Trump from the beginning. When he descends on his magic escalator and begins to attack Mexicans and begins to attack the violence in cities that were presumably caused by blacks and other people of color. It's all about this huge fear of whites losing control. As you well know, there's a lot of discussion. How serious it is another issue, but there's a lot of discussion now about the whole issue of reparations, particularly in California. Once you rewrite history, there's no need to talk about reparations because slavery was a good thing. So what is there a need to repair? And so a lot of this is justifying inaction on a number of fronts by basically trying to create a picture of the past that is inaccurate. But I think it goes even deeper than that. I think it's, if you don't know history, if you don't know facts, if you don't know how to analyze information, I think you don't know how to be a critical thinker. And a lot of this hysteria that fuels this new right-wing movement depends on people being stupid, on people not knowing history, on people not knowing reality, and not being able to critically think about how you make a better reality.
There are two or three things that came to mind while you were speaking. First of all, let me just say that's a powerful frame. We always want to get our frame right, and I never thought about it in that particular way, but it's a brilliant point that if you can rewrite history, then there's no need for reparations. There's nothing to repair if slavery was a good thing. Powerful point, Ellis. I never quite thought about it in that way, but I'm glad you brought that forward in the way that you did. But there are a couple of things that ran through my mind while you were talking. One is a question. Do you believe, you mentioned Donald Trump and Obama, does Trump even happen if he is not preceded by Barack Obama? And I know you take my point.
Yeah. I think the answer is no. I mean, I think Trump happens in some form, right. and I think the kickback happens in some form. But Trump himself, what gave him so much, first of all, oxygen in the beginning was his attacks on Obama. His argument basically that Obama has somehow sneaked in from Kenya. That's what launched his political career.
Right.
And he spent 2 years or more making this argument, claiming he had investigators going down to Hawaii to prove that Obama was not born there. So in order for Trump to get to where he was, he needed an Obama to push back against. But I think even without Trump, you would have around this time rising people who have latched on to racial progress, who have latched on to the liberalization of certain thoughts to say, wait a minute, we need to push back against this because, to repeat what I started off with, there's this huge fear among many whites, that we're losing our country, and it coincides with as you very well know, with the rise of white nationalism, with the rise of violent attacks, et cetera, et cetera. So it comes together. The movement would have happened with or without Trump, but it wouldn't have been a Trumpian movement. It would have been a slightly different movement.
We agree on that. Not that we have to, but I don't believe and never will believe as long as I live that Trump would have been present in that moment to win that election. Had he not been preceded by one Barack Obama, it just wouldn't have happened in that way. And so I think you're right about that. The other thing I thought about while you were talking moments ago is how you read the fact that the ideas, some of these crazy ideas that Ron DeSantis has advanced, the ideas have taken off, but he has not. How do you read that?
I think that's a very simple answer. He is just a bad candidate.
Okay.
I mean, I heard an example or an analogy the other day that I thought was really appropriate. It says, man, you have a restaurant, and it's not attracting customers, and because the food has a reputation of being bad, the chef is an idiot, and so the chef fires all the waiters, and then expects to change. I mean, you have what's going on with with this candidate is, he's changed his campaign manager. He's shaken up his campaign for the third or fourth time. He's now going to launch what he's calling some kind of insurgency, which would be interesting to see what that means. But he's never risen anywhere within striking distance of Trump. I mean, I think in the last poll I saw, he was at Trump was at over 50. He was at like 17. In the poll among likely Republican primary voters. He's just a bad candidate. He's not a good speaker. His launch was a disaster. This whole anti-woke thing, even Trump himself has said he doesn't understand it, because but it's what he is what he's decided to make the foundation of his campaign, and it just leaves a lot of people scratching their head, and the fact that he is not a good speaker, the fact that he is not comfortable doing retail politics, which everybody has to be if they're going to really be successful in that. I mean, I think that people looked at his credentials. By that I mean his educational credentials. Sure. The Yale, the Harvard law thing, and said, okay, we're gonna get a Trump without the baggage of Trump. You're gonna get a Trump with all of these prestigious academic degrees, who doesn't say all the stupid things that Trump says. But the fact of the matter is that what made Trump Trump were a lot of the stupid things he said. Yeah. So you don't get a trade up by going to DeSantis, even despite the fact that he went to Harvard Law School.
Yeah. Nope, I take your point. I got 2 minutes left here, and let me give these last 2 minutes to you. I mentioned earlier you're the founder of the organization Renewing American Democracy. And I want to close with a point-blank and direct question and give you these last 2 minutes. Is that possible in this moment? Is it possible to renew American democracy? And so, what does that look like, Ellis?
Wow, that's a huge question. Let me try to answer as succinctly as I can. I think we're moving through a period, as I said, that's comparable very much to the Civil War period, where we're looking at fundamental changes in the way that people think and fundamental changes in the way we want to approach institutions and into things that white folks find very threatening about our democracy. I'm also basically at root an optimist, and I think we're going to get beyond this at some point with a lot of trouble, with a lot of pain, with a lot of agony. So the short answer is yes, I do think we can move to a better version of a democracy. We're never going to be a complete democracy. The United States was never intended to be one. But I think we can get to a much better place than we are, and I think we can get certainly beyond this DeSantis/Trump foolishness, which is occupying way too much of the national attention at the moment.
How close to the edge do you think we are, though? You and I both agree that our democracy is fragile, but how close to the edge are we in this moment?
I think that if you believe that Trump can actually win this next election, we're going to go over the edge. Wow. I don't think he can, and I take a certain comfort in that. But I think we're very close, and I think we're going to avoid what another Trump administration would mean at the end of the day.
From your mouth to God's ears, Ellis. He's a best-selling author, longtime columnist, contributing editor, chairman of the editorial board, the New York Daily News. He's had an astounding and an amazing career, and founder of the organization Renewing American Democracy. I've known him for years and have always been empowered by conversations with him. He is Ellis Cose. Ellis, thanks for your time, man. We'll do it again somewhere down the road, sir.
Always a pleasure, Tavis. You take good care.
Likewise. Thank you, sir. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What does access mean?
Access means owning a home. Access means growing my business.
Access means building generational wealth.
No matter your goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Programs and initiatives provide the tools and resources to help you reach them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
doesn't stop when cancer starts. After diagnosis, treatment is vital. But for some, just getting there, to appointments, chemo, or radiation, is a major challenge. You can change that. Volunteer to give rides at the American Cancer Society Road to Recovery program. Driving for a few hours of your day can make a life-saving difference for someone with cancer. Visit cancer.org/drive to learn more.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former NFL receiver, African-American Henry Ruggs, is being sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for a deadly DUI crash in Las Vegas, Nevada. The accident happened in 2021 and ended in the death of Tina Tintor and her dog. Ruggs slammed his Corvette into the back of her car, causing it to go up in flames. He reached a deal in May, agreeing to plead guilty to 1 felony count of DUI resulting in death. We're now learning the 2023 Emmys are officially moving to next year. The Television Academy announced this morning the ceremony will now take place on January 15th. The ceremony had been scheduled for next month, but was postponed due to the ongoing actors and writers' strikes. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and VINnews.com.
In San Dimas, a wreck working now on the 210 eastbound past San Dimas Avenue. Traffic is heavy from Lone Hill. In Pasadena, work done on the 210 west at Hill Avenue. In Studio City, 134 west at the 170 connector. That is closed until 2 this afternoon with the slowing at Cahuenga Boulevard. And 101 north at Coldwater Canyon. A stall on the right has the drive slow from the 170.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers get a shutout at Arizona last night to win their 5th straight. Right-hander Bobby Miller kept Arizona off the scoreboard for 6 innings before the bullpen took over in the 7th. The Dodgers are back home tonight against Colorado. The Rams rank 3rd among NFL franchises in net value. If you want to buy the Rams from owner Stan Kroenke, it will cost you $6.94 billion. Rounding out the top 5, the New York Giants at $7.04 billion, New England at $6.7 billion, and the 49ers at $6.15 billion. The Chargers are at number 18 at $4.63 billion. LeBron James' son Bryce has changed his mind about going to Campbell High School in Studio City. The 6'6" junior is planning to transfer to Sherman Oaks, Notre Dame. One of the guards in Sherman Oaks is a guy named Mercy Miller, son of rapper Master P. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Rob Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Rob Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit NoTimeToWait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Fox.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now. Right now. Right now. Right now.
Oh yeah. I get around. Still clown when the underground when we come around. Stronger than ever.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and we are delighted to have you tuned into our program today. On August the 11th, 1973, the vibrant and revolutionary music genre known as hip-hop took its first breath in the heart of New York City. Fast forward half a century, and we find hip-hop standing tall as a multi-billion-dollar cultural hegemonic powerhouse, exerting its influence on a global scale. Among the visionary few who recognized hip-hop's potential early on was Congresswoman Maxine Waters, believe it or not. She fearlessly championed hip-hop when few in the political sphere dared to, helping pave the way for the genre's ascent into the political and societal significance that we now know today. Congresswoman Waters joins us now at hip-hop's half-century mark to discuss her pioneering efforts in advocating for this cultural movement long before its mainstream embrace, and to unpack the evolution and fusion of hip-hop in the political landscape. She's the founder of To Be Young, Gifted, and Black Brain Trust. That Brain Trust will be on display at the annual Congressional Black Caucus gathering in Washington coming up next month in September. It is my great honor to welcome back to this program Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Congresswoman, how are you today?
I'm fine, Tavis, and thank you for having me on today as we celebrate the anniversary of hip-hop, 50 years. And as you described it in so many words, it is worldwide. It's an economic engine. It is a genre that has not only changed America in so many ways, but changed a lot of the culture of our people. So I'm delighted to be on with you today.
I'm always honored to be in dialogue with you, as you well know. Let me take you back. I was doing some research last night, as I do every night for my show, but doing some research, and I was here in L.A. then, of course. You represent Los Angeles in Congress and have for many years now. So I was here then, and I recall this, but it just took me back when I was researching for our dialogue today. 1994. Representative, she's laughing already. She knows exactly where I'm going. 1994, Maxine Waters reads Snoop Dogg lyrics during a Senate hearing. I am not making this up. Back in 94, Congresswoman Waters read some lyrics from Snoop in a hearing on the Hill. Do you recall this? I assume you do.
Absolutely, and I know why I did it. As you know, Carol Moseley Braun was the one black woman in the United States Senate.
That's right.
And she had been encouraged to do this hearing by a woman named C. Dolores Tucker. C. Dolores Tucker had been, I think, Secretary of State in Pennsylvania.
That's correct.
At one point in time. But she was adamantly opposed to rap. And she particularly was disturbed about gangster rap at the time. And she and other women, including Dionne Warwick, wanted to censure rap. And so they were encouraging Carol Moseley Braun to introduce legislation. And that's when I intervened. I intervened, and when she held the hearing, I got myself invited to be there, and I was trying to explain to them the creativity of this genre of music. I was trying to explain to them that these were our children. These were our young people who had basically decided to rap about the conditions of black people, relationships with the police, poverty, unfairness, injustice, racism, all of that, and that we needed to listen and we needed to understand. I loved the boldness of it. I love the idea that these young people not only were being bold, but they had the courage to find a way to talk about what basically plagued all of America and parts of the world. Mm-hmm. So I went over and I gave my testimony, and to make sure they understood the importance, the creativity, and the meaning of what these young people were doing, I read Snoop Dogg. I did that. Yes, I did.
I recall that, as you may remember, at the time I was on BET back then. I was hosting my late night show on BET back then, on which you appeared any number of times, of course. And I remember like it was yesterday, talking to C. Dolores Tucker. I had her on BET. That show was live, and we took phone calls. And I remember the night she came on, the phone lines just lit up. Because this is C. Dolores Tucker. She's going after rap. I'm on BET. We're playing, all kinds of music and videos on BET at the time. I remember that well. I remember having Kara Mosley Braun on around the time that this happened. And so I'd forgotten about this until last night. I was just digging through some old stuff and remember that you had read Snoop lyrics at a Senate hearing back in 1994. So it shows how early on, as I said earlier, you were out front in this regard. What was it about rap, about hip-hop then, that you thought needed to be reckoned with? None of us at the time could ever know it'd be as hegemonic as it is these days, but something connected you to it and your belief that it could have a significant impact on the culture. What was that?
It was a number of things, Tavis. First of all, I love courage, and I love the idea that young people were saying what a lot of people thought. They was just saying it in their own way and their own style. And I love the idea of their audacity, the audacity to say it, to say to the industry, the entertainment industry, you won't play us? You don't think we're valuable? We're going to record it in our garages, in our basements, and we're going to sell it out of the back of our cars. We're not going to keep begging and pleading because we know that we've got something that's worthwhile. So I love that spirit. I love that boldness. I love that courage. And so that excited me. But the other thing was I saw the creativity. And I saw the not only rap, but hip-hop and what was coming about, the way that, this movement was growing, and the way that young people were dressing, and the way that they were wearing their hair, and the way that they said, you don't like the way we look, we like the way we look, and this is how we're going to wear our hair. This is how we're going to wear our clothes. These are the colors that we're going to use. And so I love the audacity and the boldness of all of that. And I also knew that this creativity was going to evolve. And I watched it with my very eyes from Queen Latifah on to, Tupac was brilliant. I just loved him. And I had the opportunity to connect with them. And, even when they were doing things that people objected to, they used to do this Mother's Day event.
Oh, yeah.
And they invited me, and so I went and I think at that Mother's Day event, not only did you have Tupac and Snoop, I think you had Jay-Z at that time, and I know you had Dr. Dre, but NWA, all of them were, these were the nice guys at the Mother's Day, honoring their mothers. Now I can't tell you what they were doing at night. But
I'm just laughing because it is so funny to me to hear Maxine Waters just call the roll of all the names. She knows them all, not just by name, she knows them personally. They're fans of hers, she's fans of theirs, and I just get tickled every time I hear it. I was thinking that she was talking and using those words, boldness, courage, audacity, to describe them. Others have used those words to describe Auntie Maxine. Bold, courageous, audacious. We'll continue our conversation with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit No Time to Wait.
Eventually, they're going to bump their heads or scrape their knees, but we can protect them from 6 types of cancer. HPV, or human papillomavirus, is a common, preventable virus that can cause cancer later in life. The HPV vaccine prevents human papillomavirus and all the cancers it can cause. The American Cancer Society recommends getting your sons and daughters the HPV vaccine starting at age 9 to protect them later in life.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at J.P. Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lacey and Tyler. The main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them, another look if I go to another institution. I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right. Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here. On a Mission Youth Travel presents the 2023 Morehouse Homecoming HBCU College Tour, October 25th through October 29th in Atlanta, Georgia. Open to high school students grades 9 through 12. For more information, please call 323-298-4779. Again, 323-298-4779. Students will tour Morehouse College, Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, Alabama State, and Tuskegee University. Email info@onamissionyouthtravel.com. Again, info@onamissionyouthtravel.com. The HBCU tour price includes all meals, transportation, round-trip airfare with one checked bag, hotel accommodations, all museums, college tours, and admission to the Morehouse versus Kentucky State University homecoming football game. Spaces are filling up quickly, so call today to sign up. 323-298-4779. Again, 323-298-4779.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Our guest in this hour is Congresswoman Maxine Waters as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. She was a stalwart supporter way back when nobody was taking it seriously. And, in fact, when other politicians were trying to do away with it, I'm thinking of C. Dolores Tucker, who we were discussing earlier. I'm thinking of even Tipper Gore. You remember Tipper Gore wanted all the albums to be labeled, and that became a huge debate.
Oh, yeah.
The wife of former wife of Al Gore, who we discussed earlier on today's program, in fact. So I remember all that. Let me just ask you this. What do you think the impact of this genre has been, this music has been, this culture has been politically in this country?
Well, first of all, let me just say I always had a vision for the fact that it would evolve. I didn't know exactly how it was going to evolve, but I knew that this talent would grow. And, you know, when I talk about, you know, people like Queen Latifah and some of them and how they have become producers and directors and, you know, and they branded, you know, clothing and they're sought after for ads and all of that. They're an economic engine. And I know now that politicians see them differently. And then they saw them years ago, the ministers, the politicians, and those who, you know, felt that, you know, rap and gangster rap was basically poisoning our children and our society. Now they have greater respect, and they're sought after to help to influence voter registration and to, you know, have a voice in politics. And it's still growing, and it's not even where it's going to be, but they absolutely play a role. And, you know, I look at Ice Cube now, and I know that he's considered controversial, but he was my first star when I created Young, Gifted, and Black, who came to be with the Black Caucus to talk to the Black Caucus about the importance of the young people and this hip-hop movement and rap. So I think that they have had an influence on politics, and it's not yet what it is going to be. They are sought after now to help encourage young people to register and to vote and to speak at colleges and universities, and it's growing.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, I want to ask her about this group she founded to be Young, Gifted, and Black, the Brain Trust, and what they're going to be doing specifically at the Congressional Black Caucus gathering that happens annually in September. We'll talk about that. And I'm curious, I think I recall this, but I'm curious as to what she was saying publicly when there were those who were saying that this music was poisoning the minds of our children. She referenced it, but I'm just curious, all those decades ago, what she was saying about that issue then. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, the Brain Trust, at the CBC annual gathering in September when we come forward with Congresswoman Maxine Waters on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
MC Light for AARP. Hip-hop, the cultural phenomenon that took New York by storm in 1973, is celebrating 50 years of rocking mics and crowds. Whether you're a ride-or-die hip-hop head or simply curious about its origins, check out the latest issue of AARP, the magazine. It celebrates this incredible milestone with a featured story brimming with fun hip-hop facts and history. Head over to aarp.org/blackcommunity to learn more.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who go above and beyond to help it thrive. During the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and the 75th anniversary of Black Radio, AARP recognizes the members, volunteers, people, and partners giving back to our communities. We believe when our efforts drive change for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about how AARP supports efforts to keep our communities thriving, visit aarp.org/blackcommunity.
I'm David Goldberg, a bilingual elementary school teacher and president of the California Teachers Association. As we start a new school year, there's something new happening in California's public schools. They're called community schools, where families, students, educators, and communities are making decisions as one.
As a parent, I feel like we're really valued as partners in the education system.
Community schools are bridging the systems of academics with the community.
The curriculum is designed around the students and their academic needs.
I know community schools are working. We see it in parent involvement. We see it in student academics.
We saw double-digit gains in math, English, and reading scores.
It's a more innovative, holistic approach to educating students.
I really feel like this is the first time that we're really seeing a system change in our school.
It's innovative, fresh,
and they're already working. We invite you to learn more about community schools as we come together to reimagine public education here in California. And that's why CTA brought you this message.
Wendy's BOGO $1
deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave's Single, spicy chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
I got just 3 minutes left here in conversation with Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I always enjoy talking to her, but 3 minutes left here to make her point, to put a finer point on her thought earlier of how far hip-hop has come politically. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader in the Senate, has his name on a resolution to recognize and celebrate hip-hop's cultural impact. That's how far this genre has come in 50 years, that Chuck Schumer is putting his name on legislation. On a resolution rather to honor them. In these 3 minutes, let me ask you two things right quick. Number one, what were you saying publicly decades ago when they were saying this music was poisoning the minds of our babies?
Several things. First of all, I was saying I believe in our constitutionally protected freedom of speech, our First Amendment rights. I really do believe that. And I believe that we must all have the opportunity to express ourselves. What these young people were doing. The Cowboys have been doing it in country music, et cetera, et cetera. And number two, I believe that it was a talent that was going to evolve into a very important genre in this world. And so I was saying all of those things, and I was saying that we needed to understand them and not think that somehow these kids dropped out of Mars somewhere. These are our children, and we needed to support them.
Yep. Finally here, to be young, gifted, and black, a brain trust. Tell me about that entity and tell me about what they're going to be doing at the Congressional Black Caucus annual gathering in September on the Hill.
Well, as a result of my work in support of hip-hop and rap, I created Young, Gifted, and Black because I wanted the members of Congress to be educated and to see these young people. And so I created this, and at the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Conference every year, I have this workshop. And I have a panel, and I've had everybody there that you can name. Like I started out with Ice Cube. I've had 21 Savage. I've had Nas, I believe. I've had KRS-One. I've had Common. I've had a lot of them. I want Drake. This year I'm going after T.I. T.I. has been there before. My friend who's a pioneer, Yo-Yo, Rhapsody, these women who, persisted in having a voice. All of that. And I want to get KRS-One because he included me in one of his raps that said, I want my daughters to be like Maxine Waters.
You know you are all that and then some when they dropping your name in rap lyrics, Congresswoman. You know you made it when they dropping your name in rap lyrics.
That's right. That's right. So I'm looking forward to a big celebration, and I'm going after a lot of them. Many of them have schedules they got to honor, but we will have some of the big names, and we'll have a good Young, Gifted, and Black this year.
It is always one of the biggest gatherings at the Congressional Black Caucus annual event. You can't get in the room. It's just packed. People trying to get in there. So Maxine Waters always hosts one of the most sought-after events on the Hill during that annual celebration. It's called To Be Young, Gifted, and Black Brain Trust. You heard her say it's going to be all that and then some this year. Auntie Maxine, we love you. We appreciate you. Good to have you back on this program.
Thank you so much. If you're in Washington, come on by.
You know I will. Love you now. Take care. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former NFL receiver, African-American Henry Ruggs, is being sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for a deadly DUI crash in Las Vegas, Nevada. The accident happened in 2021 and ended in the death of Tina Tintor and her dog. Ruggs slammed his Corvette into the back of her car, causing it to go up in flames. He reached a deal in May, agreeing to plead and writer's strikes. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore.